Welcome to the December 5th, 23 edition of the Tennessee Thunder podcast, live streamed to you twice a month on the Tennessee Freedom Coalition's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pages. I'm co-host Stephany Davis with our host Jason Mills. Gonna get him on here right now. There we are.
Hello, folks.
Your famous slogan. All right.
One of many.
All right. The purpose of Tennessee Thunder podcast and the Tennessee Freedom Coalition is to provide a podcast format to interview special guests involved in grassroots activism that is informative for those following our pages. Now, remember to subscribe to our page on YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter, as this helps more people see our podcast. And before we get started, we have some announcements to make. We've got a very informative evening for you tonight. Friday, December the 8th is our final meeting for this month. And this is our final podcast until January of 24. So we'll see you next year. Jason has some dates ready for us, which includes a big day at the state capitol that you have been invited to on January 9th, and a special activist training on how we can get involved in freedom of school choice on January 6th in Knoxville. And we'll have some more information about that in the days ahead. We will be providing training for those who want to get involved, and in an all expense will be paid for the Nashville trip. So let me know if you are interested in going. I have had several people reach out to me about that particular day. That is a big day in Nashville, legislative, basically the opening of the legislative session for the new year. So they do a lot of pomp and circumstance that day, and hopefully we'll get to see a lot of people there and representation that day in Nashville. January 2nd, you will join us here for our next podcast. So this, like I said, will be the final podcast of the year. January 6th is the school choice activism training, which I'll give you more information on that in the days ahead. January 9th is the opening session, of course, for the Tennessee legislature in Nashville. We don't have a solid date on some of these, but this is kind of a ballpark of what we're coming up with. Sometime between January 15th and January 19th will be our regular meeting. And we have some exciting things happening at that meeting that we'll also be talking about in the days ahead. And then January 22nd is our Union County Commission meeting, which we always attend. And we're expecting some pretty big announcements during that month. They're not meeting in December, so giving everyone time off to be with their family and celebrate Christmas holidays. Sometime, again, between January 29th through the 31st is our next Mix and Mingle. And speaking of which, our very first mixer will be this Friday night. And of course, we have our special guest joining us, Charles Cook, who is fantastic. He is a grassroots activist and a conservative podcaster. And some of you may have already caught some of his podcasts on YouTube and on Facebook. I do share those out. He is fantastic. He understands what it's like to be in the trenches with other activists. He himself has been an activist for several years. And so he'll be sharing his insight and wisdom with us on Friday night. Now, we're still looking for our desserts. So the only thing that we don't have signed up for is our desserts. So if you have a special holiday pie, cookie, something like that you'd like to bring and share with everyone, you are welcome to do that. We all have sweet teeth, don't we, Jason? We all have sweet tooth or teeth. We all love those holiday favorites. So be sure to share with us that, or you can just stop by your friendly Kroger or Food City and give them a little business. Either one will be appreciated. And I have invited a special guest to join us in January. Speaking of school choice, we have a special guest who will be possibly at a training, also who will be on our podcast about school choice beginning in January. This is a huge year. The upcoming legislative session is going to be a huge year for freedom of school choice. And so, if you have this passion, which many of you parents have reached out to me about, you would like to see some other choices for your children, this is a great way to get involved, to learn how to talk with your senators, your representatives, basically to get your voices heard. And you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are interested in this topic. They're interested in having some choice outside of public education. And so we're going to be learning a great deal. We're learning with you. Many of us are kind of new to this. I was brought up in public schools. Different time, different challenges at that time. That's been many, many moons ago. But the kids now, there's a lot of things going on that's concerning. You've probably read about it on or heard about it on the news and on podcast, and you've probably experienced it in your own school system. So we have failing schools as well. And so there's a lot of concerning issues about having more choices and having some help paying for those choices. So you definitely want to join us in January for those sessions. And again, don't forget this Friday night, Miller's Chapel. If you're not familiar with the area, you'll go to the city of Maynardville. Right there at McDonald's across the road is Miller's Chapel United Methodist Church. We'll be meeting in the basement of that facility, so you can park. There's a drive that comes around the back of the church. You can park there and just come up to the door and knock. We will not have an open door. We may have someone at the door to let everyone in, just for security reasons. We're not going to just have it wide open. So be sure to do that. Knock at the door. Let us know you're there. All right. Let's see what else we got here. So Jason, I think we're ready for you to start talking. We of course are very prayerful this time of year about folks who are experiencing losses or have experienced loss this year. So go ahead, Jason.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Tennessee Thunder podcast on this Tuesday night. We do appreciate you joining us tonight. Remember, like, share, comment. I greatly appreciate that. Stephany kind of stole some of my thunder there. But folks, I'll go over these dates with you one more time. She just didn't like me. She just took me off screen.
I was trying to make yours up there, and I got it backwards. Go ahead.
All right, folks. I'll go over these dates one more time, just so you have enough time to get a ink pen or a pencil or something and jot these dates down. Very important dates coming in the next month. So grab something, write it down with, and we'll talk about this several more times throughout the evening, just as a reminder, just to give everybody a chance to write the dates down. But we do appreciate you joining us tonight on this Tennessee Thunder on Tuesday. And again, remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any time. We will get to them just as quickly as we possibly can. Miss Janet says she's definitely out to steal your thunder. I feel like it tonight. I don't know.
Well, it
we
is
appreciate
Tennessee.
you joining us tonight, Miss Janet.
I'm trying. If you see, folks, if you see this screen going haywire, it's because I'm trying to learn how to make his side different than my side, but I can't figure that out. So just bear with me until I figure it out.
Absolutely. We just zoom in, zoom out. We just do all kinds of things. Look, she's bigger, I'm small. It's just all kinds of fun around here today. Hopefully nobody gets too dizzy. Anyway, folks, just to go over those dates one more time. On this Friday would be our first mix and mingle. If you're interested in finding out information about the Union County Constable, uh, you, now you got me messed up. Union County Conservative Republican Party. That's what the mix and mingle is for. That group of folks is doing their first mix and mingle, so come on out and support them. We're just trying to help as much as we can and being involved as much as we possibly can with that group. I'm hearing some really exciting things coming up in the near future with that group. So look out, make sure you're paying attention and join us and come on down this Friday evening starting at 6:30. And again, like Stephany said, if you don't know where that's at, go to Manorville, find the McDonald's, and go directly across the street, and you'll find the church there. This is our last podcast for the year. Like Stephany also said, I'm gonna go through these dates one more time, so I'm just giving everybody a chance to grab a pencil or something. But this will be our last podcast for this year. Unless something major happens or something like that, then we'll jump on, of course, like always. But this is our last one for the year. And so I will say Merry Christmas to all those folks out there. In case I don't get to talk to you before then, hopefully I'll see you Friday night at the Mix and Mingle because I plan on attending and bring lots of food because Friday's my busiest day at work and I'll be hungry.
I'm fasting on Friday until the mix.
On January the 2nd, that will be our next podcast. January the 2nd will be our next podcast. We'll start out the year with a brand new podcast, and you never know what kind of surprises we might have on that New Year, New Day podcast. So make sure you're paying attention and join us on that day. On January the 6th, there will be a training, like Stephany said earlier. More information will be coming out about that in the next few days. On January the 9th, if you get a chance, I hope you plan on joining us to go to Nashville and see how that side of government works. I know a lot of us go to the county commission meeting here, be very interested in to go down there and see how the state side of things works. And hopefully we get to talk to some of our representatives and all those kinds of things and maybe voice our opinion on a few things that we like to see happen in the state and in our county. That sounds like a good idea to me. That is on a Tuesday, so I'm hoping I can go. I'd really like to go. I'm going to try to go. On the week of January the 15th through the 19th, this is a meeting that will be announced, a specific date, but it will be in that week. That would actually be a conservative, constitutional Republican meeting. A specific date and time will be announced in the near future. And I'm hearing that that will be a very important meeting for those folks that are wanting to be a part of that party. For you to attend, I think there's going to be some elections and things that night. So make sure you come out then. January the 22nd, that's our next county commission meeting. Make sure you plan on going to that meeting. That's going to be very interesting, as we will talk about here shortly about this past county commission meeting. We learned a lot about what's going to be coming in the near future. So this January 22nd county commission meeting is very important for you to attend, because you will learn more about what's going to happen with the jail and such. But we'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. January the 23rd will be our second podcast for the month of January. We are doing 2 podcasts a month, and then we're having we will be attending the Constitutional Republican Party meetings and the Mix and Mingles. That's why we changed. For those of you who haven't heard, that's why we changed from podcast every week to 2 podcasts a month. And then January 29th through the 31st, one of those days, we will have the second mix and mingle for the Constitutional Republican Party. And those specific dates and times will be announced soon. We've got to get with some folks that are going to be lining up with that party and that kind of thing, and get them nailed down to a specific date, and we'll get that announced and all those kinds of good things. So that's all of our dates for the month of January and the rest of this month, because there isn't anything else the rest of this month other than celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on Christmas. And then Happy New Year also, if I don't see you before then. So that's what I got on those dates. Also, as Stephany briefly mentioned, I do want to ask for all you folks out there that can and will be much in prayer for a lot of folks that have gone through a lot of things here recently. We've had a major fire that destroyed a home, and I believe they lost everything. So if you would remember that family in prayer, and be very grateful for the things that you have, because that's just evidence of everything that you have and you own can just be gone in just a few moments. So be much in prayer for those. I also remember some folks that are battling cancer and have beat cancer. Be much in prayer for them. I know that's a devastating thing to families, and takes a lot out of them. And the ones that actually have the cancer and going through treatments and beating cancer and those kinds of things. So be much in prayer for them, but it also takes a heavy toll on the family members and those loved ones that are taking care of them. I know Miss McClure, she's looking for some good news. Those of you that know her and that kind of thing, she's a friend of mine and that kind of thing. And I know she's a friend to a lot of folks that are members of this coalition. So remember her, and remember all those others out there that just need prayer at this time of year. It could be a very sad, depressing time for a lot of folks that don't have a whole lot and can't give a whole lot. So just remember the true meaning to the season, and that is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and just love one another. That's what it's all about. What do you say, you, Stephany?
I say amen. And Miss McClure is a good friend of mine as well, and I'm praying for her every day that she will be healed. And anyway, this is a tough time of year for many of us. Many of us who lost loved ones over the last year or several years. It's hard at Christmas. It's difficult to sit down with an empty chair at the Christmas table and not, miss that person. And one thing that we started doing several years ago was having a candle lit to represent that person. We do that. I don't know if we did. I don't remember if we did it last year, but in recent years when we lost someone, we always lit that candle. And that does mean a lot to let, just for that person's presence to be felt. It means everything to have that. And that's just how we deal with it in our family. But my prayers are out for all of you. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Christmas. That's one of the reasons we decided to take the rest of the month off, because, this is the reason for the season. And we can get into all this stuff after the first of the year. Don't think that we're not working, because we're working behind the scenes. So our work don't stop, but as far as anything public, we will probably just postpone that until January, and you'll get to see some of the fruits of the labors that we did in December coming up in January. So
absolutely.
if you guys,
one other thing.
oh, go ahead.
one other thing I want to say about that fire, and all the fires that have happened here lately, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to reiterate uh, what I talk about quite often on these podcasts is these volunteer firefighters get out there and they risk their lives. You know, we had that big fire over uh, on the hill over there on the mountain uh, between Satterfield and Beard Valley and all that kind of thing. Folks, remember all these folks that risk their lives for and every one of us every day. Uh, just remember them in prayer, and if you see them out there at McDonald's or El Mariachi or wherever eating or whatever they're doing, and that includes law enforcement and EMS and the rescue squad and all the fire departments, even the constables. If you see them out somewhere, just take a moment and tell them thank you, and just give them a pat on the back. You know, they don't get enough credit for what they do, and especially the constables and the firefighters. Uh, they do it for free. They don't get paid, and not that the sheriff's department and EMS get paid a whole lot, because they don't. They don't get paid what they're worth. But these firefighters and the constables get out there and they buy their own equipment most of the time and do all the things that they need to do to protect themselves to go home to their family. Um, but they have a yearning in their heart to protect the citizens of this county. And so with that, I know over this house fire and stuff like that, some of the fire departments have been attacked and said some things that weren't true and what have you. Um, it ain't all about that. You got to give credit where credit is due, and these folks deserve all the credit in the world. They work their butts off. They risk their lives. Most of them have their own jobs and own families that they missed out on things. I know uh, as far as the mountain fire over there is what I call it. There's a lot of them that um, didn't go to work. Uh, they missed money. They missed making money for their family out there protecting the citizens of this county. And that just shows that they're committed. And that just shows that they're doing what they feel is right. And they do uh, they do what they can. And I'm not saying that because, my family are members of some of these fire departments and all that. I'm saying that as a member of this community. I'm saying that as a member of this county. And I want to take just a moment to say thank you very much to each and every one.
Absolutely. Thank you, firefighters, and thank you, emergency workers, for all that you do for our community.
I just want to throw that out there because they never get enough credit.
They don't. And, you don't think about it as much until something affects your community like it did with those wildfires. Those wildfires were wild, and they could have been wilder because thanks to their efforts, they really saved a lot of homes and structures around there and protected the community. And, they don't get paid for this. This is something that they do out of the love for their community. It's a lot like our constables, those volunteer fire departments. Those firefighters are great people. They do their best to protect our community. And they're underappreciated, but they're really appreciated when something like that happens. It just reminds us how close, how close we are to having something bad happen. We need to come together as a community. And that they certainly went beyond the call of duty on that wildfire. We appreciate you, firefighters, and all emergency workers.
Absolutely. Well, you got anything else before we jump into our other topics for the evening?
I do not, except don't forget Friday night, guys, and we need some good, tasty desserts.
All right. As catching up on our notes here, so make sure we're online. So,
Yeah. And like I said, I'm learning this editing software. So if you see his image get a little bit larger there, it's because I'm just working, trying to get used to this stuff. So we
she's
can look
just
a little more.
hitting buttons over there. She's just
Yeah,
trying to
that's what
figure
I'm
out what
doing.
to do.
I'm like a little kid in a candy store. So go ahead, Jason. Anytime you're ready.
All right. So our main topic for the evening is going to be the county commission meeting that just happened last week. I know some of you attended. I attended. I was a little late, so I didn't get to see the first part of the county commission meeting. But just from where I started at, where I walked in at, we'll go from there. And if Stephany has anything previous, she can jump in with. But we started out when I got there. They were discussing that the county got audited and found no discrepancies and that kind of thing, and they gave credit to the auditing group and finance folks and all that kind of stuff for doing a great job. And so we wanted to mention that as well and say thank you for doing a great job in the finance department and keeping the county's books in line and all those kinds of good things. So we'll give a shout out to them folks too. Mr. Hank, it's good to see you too. Glad to see you on the podcast. It's been a minute. Samus, I wish they would wear microphones so we can hear what they say. We've been saying that for many months now.
That's coming up in January, so don't think we've not forgotten.
But so that was that part. Then we kind of quickly moved into some other topics. And the architects for the new middle school were there, and it was discussed that those architects and designers and whatever, there were several of them there, what all their titles are and that kind of thing, I'm not aware of. But they were all there, and it was discussed they will be there at every meeting until they break ground on the new middle school. So if you have questions about the middle school, you want to know anything about the design or anything like that, you can go to one of these county commission meetings and you can talk to these folks. So we came up with a title for this part of the podcast, and I forget what Stephany called it, but we're going to call it what? Go ahead. What did you call it?
I don't remember.
Well, I'm just going to call it more questions than answers. Part of the podcast.
Something like that. Yeah, it was questions with answers or vague answers, and I don't know. That's all I can remember.
She don't know. She done forgot. Anyway, so we moved into the discussion about the new middle school, and the architects talked about how they've had to redesign some things and move some things, and they flipped the classrooms from one direction to the other direction because they had to shorten the building and all those kinds of things. Well, you might ask, why did they have to shorten the building? Well, number one, they didn't buy the entire property when they had the chance to, and so now they're landlocked. So they've had to shift the building around a little bit to fit in the space. There's a section of the property that they didn't buy, which has some mobile homes on it and such. They chose not to buy it for whatever reason, so now they can't buy it now because the owners are refusing to sell it now. They might buy it later, who knows? But so they're landlocked on one side, so they had to shift the building and try to make it fit on that property. The property isn't flat; it is actually fairly hilly, and so they've had to work with the confines of what they have to work with, and because of that, they're trying to save as much money as possible by not having to move so much dirt. And so that plays a part in the landscape of how they could fit the building there, and also money. And I have talked to several, as shall we say, folks in the know, folks that are in government that can, I'll call them my sources, um, that have told me that uh, they don't have all the funding they need necessarily to build the building that they want. So they, um, let's say, Mr. Clay has stated that he will build as much of the building as he possibly can with the money that he has, and he won't be able to do any more. So that brings me to the question that I've been asking for months now. I've asked several different school board members. I've asked Mr. Clay. I've asked several people this very question, and to me, it's a simple question. I just want an answer, and I get an answer, but it's not a true answer to my question. And so my question has been, especially because they're talking about building the jail on the middle school ball field. Is the new ball fields going to be built at the same time as the new middle school? If you go back several county commission meetings, Miss Cheryl Walker said no, that they don't have enough money for it, and she doesn't want the ball fields built anyway. And that's where I came up with Miss Cheryl Walker doesn't like ball fields several podcasts ago, several months ago. So that brings us up to speed till now. And so I did ask last week another school board member. I said, are the new middle school and the new ball fields at the middle school being built at the same time? And the answer I get is the answer I continue to get every time that I talk to one of these folks. And that is they're in the plans. Well, I can plan a lot of things. I could plan on building $1 million house, out here, tear mine down and plan on building $1 million house, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So I cannot get an answer to that question. Are they actually going to be built at the same time? The answer that I've got from some sources that would know has been no, they will not be because they can't afford it. They need at least another $10 million to do the ball fields and some other things that they have planned as building the new middle school. And that's also evident because they don't have enough money. They've had to shorten the building because, again, they don't have enough money to build it as they had planned just 3-4 months ago. They've had to shorten the building. And it's concerning, especially if the old middle school ball field's gone. Again, what are we doing for the kids? What are we going to do with the middle school football team? What are we going to do with the middle school baseball team? Where are they going to play? What are they going to do? And so during the county commission meeting, as this was being discussed, we had a very vocal county commissioner. I'm very proud of him for him standing up for the citizens of Union County, especially those of us here in the 4th District, because he's the 4th District County Commissioner, and that's Danny Cook. Danny Cook stood up. Well, he didn't stand up, but he made very clear his position on this ball field situation. We'll talk more about that when the jail comes. That's our next little snippet from the county commission. But as far as the school goes, if you have questions about the school, you're concerned about the school, come to these county commission meetings and get your questions answered. Or you can call school board members, or you could attend a school board meeting. You could do those things. But the middle school, the new middle school, the design seems okay. It's going to be built on 2 different hallways, basically. One of those hallways has a second level up top. If you haven't seen the blueprint yet, that's the working theory. They're going to build a 2-story in the front, 1-story in the back, just because the way the grade of the building is, or the land is, like I said, it's very hilly and that kind of thing. So to make the building on the same levels, they can only do 1 level, one side, 2 stories in the front. And each grade will have their own hallway. So 6th grade will have a hallway, 7th grade will have a hallway, 8th grade will have a hallway. And each hallway, the plan is each hallway will have their own principal and counselors in each hallway for each grade. So you can agree with that. You can disagree with that. That's not something that I'm going to debate. But my debate is, okay, well, we're already kind of saying we're already hurting for money. And we just raised property taxes and a wheel tax to build this school. And we're saying that we don't have enough money to do that already. So now what's going to happen? What's going to be the next step? And I'm not just coming up with this on my own. Like I said, I've talked to several folks that are involved in local government, and they have confirmed this with me, and actually gave me more information than I knew before. So so I just won't reveal my sources. What say you, Miss Stephany?
Well, of course, we'll be accused of being conspiracy theories tomorrow because we reported this tonight. People like to do that. They like to play games, and we have some fans that apparently follow our page that basically accuse us of being conspiracy theories. Although there's video with all this information on it, it's quite funny. But going back to the issue. It makes you wonder if there was a bit of naivety regarding how far this money would go, or at least the bonds to pay for it. And with the economy going downhill, it makes you wonder if they greatly underestimated the value of the bonds and what they would actually purchase with a changing economy. And I'm not an economist. I wish that we could get someone on the podcast that could explain a little bit more about these bonds that these school systems use to build these capital projects. That would be very helpful to many of our people out there. If you're like me, you do well to balance your checkbook. So maybe in the future we can get someone on the podcast that can explain some of this stuff to us, so we'll know more about what we're dealing with relative to these bond values.
Absolutely. And Miss Amos says next up, an antenna tax. No, I can tell you what's next up because they talked about it in the commission meeting. Next up is they're going to raise the property tax, or not the property tax, the building permits. They're going to raise the building permit prices. That's next on the plan. And they're going to raise the commercial building permit prices even more based on what they just talked about in the Budget and Finance Committee and was mentioned in the County Commission meeting. They also are planning on, and they talked about this also in the County Commission meeting, a RV, mobile trailer, whatever you want to call it, fee. They can't call it a tax. It's against state law to call it a tax. But they are looking to mirror some of the other counties surrounding us that are working on the same thing. They are looking at trying to charge a fee. Like I said, state law says they can't call it a tax, so they can call it a fee if you're living in a mobile home, or not a mobile home, an RV or something like that. So if you're living in a camper and you've lived in it for many years now, the county's looking to charge you a fee for staying there. And last resolution I seen that they were trying to uh, add to us um, is, let's say, the last resolution I seen said something along the lines of, if that RV or camper is not moved every 30 days, and it has to move. It can't just like move 3 inches. It has to move to a different uh, plot of land. It has to move to a different lot if you're in an RV, um, you know, setup there that has different lots, that kind of thing. But the last resolute or the last plan that I seen said you had to move it completely every 30 days. And if it was there for more than 30 days, you got charged this fee, and you got charged the fee um, for every 30 days thereafter. It was still in that same spot. And I don't know what Union County's policy is going to look like, or even I don't know who's going to enforce it. They've not really discussed that yet, but they have uh, said many times that they're looking into it, and they're looking to start this as soon as possible. So just something to keep in mind if you've got friends or family or yourself that want to live in an RV or a camper or something like that. That's something they're coming after.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible that we have people that are having to move out of their apartments because they can't pay rent. Rent is outrageous, especially in these cities. But it's outrageous everywhere. I've checked online, even out in the counties, the rent, like for just a basic 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom house, I've seen anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 a month. And then people say, well, and I've talked to them. I go to these neighborhoods all the time, involved in my work, and take these surveys. And basically people are moving out of these apartments or houses, and they're moving back in with their family, and now again, they're facing a possible fee to live in an RV on their property or on someone else's property. No fault of their own. They're just trying to make do, make the living, and have a inexpensive way to live instead of having all this money to pay out every month. So these commissioners need to really think about this and not overcharge. If they charge at all, these folks that are barely making it as it is, I just see that as a problem. They need to really think about this before they go on with it.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of the schools and taxes and that kind of thing, something I've not got a chance to dig into a whole lot yet, and I plan on it. But some local a local school board member brought this to my attention, and that is there's a new law in the state that the state's trying to pass that says something along the lines of property taxes can no longer finance or be used for anything in the school system. So if that law passes, according to this school board member, if that law passes, then my question is, with the property tax and the will tax we just had, I know it's before this law would be in effect, but for the next school and the next thing like that, how's that going to affect the school system here in Union County? How's that going to jive with powers that be that can't raise property taxes anymore and that kind of thing? Like I said, I've got to look into it some more. That was just shared to me by a school board member, and that kind of thing. But it'd be very, I don't know. I could just feel the panic in the county if that happened, especially with the school system being the number one employer in Union County. Um, and all of a sudden we've got that challenge of how is, because that's a lot of how the county's financed through property taxes. And I don't know. We'll have to see how that works out. But the school board's worried about that if it passes.
Oh, my guess is they'll try to go after you through a wheel tax, and they'll be very aggressive about it. They'll also try to possibly do some of these other types of fees to pay for it. I mean, they will think of some way to try to milk this out of the common citizen. That's exactly their strategy with most all of these taxations. And there's nothing fair about a wheel tax because the people paying the wheel taxes are already paying the property taxes anyway through the landlords that they rent from. It's all built into the price of the rent. Anyone that has rented knows that. And I know many landlords around here that are happy to let you know that that's how it works because, I mean, that's the only choice they have. They're not going to pay it out of their pocket, especially if they have a lot of rentals.
Well, I think a lot of, based on what was shared with me, I think a lot of that comes from where the state wants to stop taking federal funds for schools and they want to fund the schools themselves through the state. And I think that's probably where they're trying to take it away from the local government as far as property taxes and that kind of thing, where the state will be funding. State would be funding the schools. I just don't know where the state is getting the money from. Like I said, that's something that I have to dig into more and find out more specifics on the funding and how it will affect the local governments, not only here in Union County, but all over the state, because it will affect, everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out and how how the plan is being established on how the schools will be funded.
Well,
Like I said, I know the push right now is for the state to take over funding for the schools.
the public schools is the majority of your budget. You know, that's the part of the budget that is spent every year. I mean, that's what we're paying for as taxpayers is pretty much the school system to operate. And they're also the largest employer, and we pay all that. So, it's going to be interesting to see that if that is cut down, how they're going to make up for it, because they're going to have to build structures in their mind on and on, in their opinion. So where's it coming from? Wheel tax or something else that we've not even thought about yet?
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Is it going to be a state fund instead of local government have to figure it out? If the state takes over, and like I said, this is just what if. I haven't dug into it enough to actually be speaking on exact facts. I'm only telling you just some ideas that I have. If the state takes over the funding of the schools, then the state will be taking more control over schools from the local government, I would think. That's normally how it works with when the state or federal government takes over anything. But the state of Tennessee is wanting to stop taking funding from the federal government with the idea that some of those strings that the federal government puts on our education system and what has to be taught and what kind of books they have to have and all these kinds of things will go away. But that would also add strings to what the state would say, in my mind, that the local governments would have to have in their school systems. And so if they take the funding out of the local government's hands as far as property taxes, then my thoughts would be that the state has already figured out a way to fund these local school systems. So it's just, I guess, taking it out of one hand and putting it in another. I'm just not sure. I know the state of Tennessee likes to talk about they run on a surplus every year as far as the amount of income that they have and taxes they have and all that kind of stuff. So maybe state of Tennessee is doing so well that they're all ready to just start funding these school systems. I do not know. Like I said, I've got to dig into it some more.
They've also tripled their budget since 2010. So they have a very large budget. The Tennessee state government, they've grown very large in the last decade.
Well, they ain't going too good on the highway if you travel over there on 640.
Well, the one thing that I'm hearing from people that are in homeschooling and pod schooling, and we actually know some people here in the coalition that are involved with that. And that's why we want to have them on our podcast and possibly in for a training in January, is that they're concerned about the state having similar strings. So basically, if they fund, I don't want to get too much into this, but if they fund children who want the choice of a different school, that there's still going to be those strings attached if you take the money from the state, just like if you take the money from the feds. So that's something we definitely need to watch because I think that the motives here from the citizenry is pure. I think that most people do want to educate their children and have those options and not have a lot of the things, the trouble that has been going on with the indoctrination and the cost for public schools has just gotten really out of hand on the cost per child. And we're finding that you can basically educate them for less because you don't need all these school buildings and such to fund. You basically take the child and put them in a different environment to where they can still learn. And it could even be a pod school where they are combined, but it's far less expensive. And so that's some of those we're going to be exploring here in January as we get more involved in the school choice issue.
All righty. Let's see. We moved on from the school system, and we got in the county commission meeting. We've got the normal sheriff's report and finance director and her moving money around for all those things that she's got to do and all those good things. And then we got into a topic about the new jail and where it will be placed at. And our fearless Republican leader, Stephany Jesse, is hell bent that new school is going to go on the middle school football field. That's where he wants it. That's all he wants to talk about. And he tries to say that that's what the state is trying to push, and they think that's the best place, and all these things. Well, Commissioner Danny Cook, he doesn't think so. He doesn't think that we need to be hurting our children that way, and I agree with him. Taking that football field away, especially if we're not going to build a replacement at the new middle school anytime soon, we shouldn't be taken away from our kids. I said, I'm talking about the jail. Sorry. But yes, they want to build, Stephany Jesse wants to build the new jail at the middle school football field. That's where he's wanting it built. Like I said, Commissioner Cook, he said he disagrees with that. He doesn't think that we should take it away from our children and that kind of thing. He also made it known, which has been talked about several times, that it would be more cost by having it down at the football field, because then you'd have to transport prisoners from the new jail at the football field down to the jail for court. Whereas the other plan that they're talking about is actually building the new jail at the new jail and just having a corridor and just bringing the prisoners over through that corridor and being right there. And then you don't have the transport cost and that kind of thing. And so they they already have money set aside to purchase the property. So there's an argument that we'll be saving money if we build it on the football field, as opposed to where they originally planned, which is right there in the parking lot next to the courthouse. They have the money set aside already to purchase those properties. They have to now, because they just kind of left them out in the wind, those property owners, they decided they just didn't want to talk to them anymore. So they decided, oh, well, I guess we need to start talking to these folks to see if they'll even be willing to sell now, because we haven't talked to them in so many months. And we just left them hanging. And so now they've got to go back and re-talk to these property owners to see if they'll sell the property, and prices changed and all those kind of things. But I can agree with Commissioner Cook that building the jail at the current courthouse is the better fit as far as saving money on transporting prisoners and that kind of thing from the ball field down to the courthouse. I could also see how that plan would work better as far as the ease of court, having them right there instead of the van breaks down or whatever they're going to use to transport the prisoners, or if the prisoners decide that they want to be slow that morning and not necessarily want to go to court, they'll be right there. They could just usher them over there instead of having to put them on something, get them down there, get them out, and all the safety aspects that goes along with that as well. Now, here's the other thing that I'm a little concerned about as far as the new jail and what they're talking about. No matter where they build it at, whether it's next to the courthouse or at the football field, they're only talking about building a 130-bed jail. It's going to cost $40 million or more, give or take, whatever it's going to cost, 25, 30, I don't care what it costs. It's going to cost the taxpayers several $1 million to build this thing. And they're talking about 130 beds. It's been mentioned 175 beds. But what they're focused on is 130 beds. We're going to spend millions and millions of dollars to build a jail that's already going to be at max capacity, because our jail currently, that is overcrowded, already has 100 plus people in it. And so we're just building it for 30 more beds. Are we just going to have 30 more criminals and say, okay, that's done? Or we're going to have to build another jail? Are we going to have to expand already? That's one issue that I don't like about this. If we're going to build one, let's build it with enough capacity that we can grow into, instead of already being in trouble as soon as it's built. The other concern is how we're going to pay for it. And, well, Commissioner Jesse made it plain as day. If you go back and you watch that county commission meeting, he said that jail's going to cost several $1 million to build. We're going to have to find a way to fund it. And in order to do that, we're not going to talk about funding it right now. We'll wait until the next budget cycle, which will be next June-ish, when they start talking about the new budget, to come up with the way to finance the building of the new jail. You know what the new way, the way of funding projects like that is, folks? Guess what? Your property tax is going to go up for the third year in a row. And maybe your wheel tax might go up again. And yes, your property tax did go up 3 years in a row. If next year, if they raise taxes again, it'd be third year in a row. I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook here recently. Some of y'all are starting to get your new bill. And some of y'all are finally seeing, the coalition was right. They weren't lying as much as they got told that we were not telling the truth and we were doing all these things. Guess what? We were right. And so people were saying 20% increase, 27% increase. I've seen people saying their property tax went up. All these kinds of things. So you got to be prepared for that, folks. And it's already being talked about. It's already being kicked around that another property tax will be needed to build this jail.
We have some, and we had actually a comment below or a question. Someone says, "Got any suggestions or solutions?" Yes, we've had several suggestions on the table for months. Other people, even outside of the coalition, have provided solutions for the overcrowding, and that would have cost less. There's studies done on adding on to previous school buildings and to older school buildings, and they're in other places across the country and even over the world. These builds can be reduced and you can still achieve the same thing. Someone put up, when we posted, we had other solutions for building on or adding wings to these existing buildings. We can't do modular buildings. Well, no one ever suggested we do modular buildings. That's just a Band-Aid. If you have overcrowding, you look at your options. If you're a homeowner and you want more room for your home, maybe you have an expanding family, you don't tear down your old house in most cases and build a brand new structure. You could never afford to do that kind of thing, or you couldn't get approved for the credit. So you build on wings to your house, or you build just additions to your home. And the problem with our governments is they've gotten so fat and thinking they could just write a check or print money that they've just taken it for granted, and they build all new buildings and structures. And then you have these companies. I don't begrudge them, but these companies that they work with are out to make profit, make money. The architects, the builders, all of those guys. And in a good economy, maybe that's okay to have some of those guys involved. But, right before a crashing economy, to bite all of this off is a little bit short-sighted. I don't think that all the commissioners are necessarily bad people as far as their objectives, but I think that some of our commissioners just don't care because maybe they're judging our pocketbooks based on what they have at home. Maybe they're doing well and they don't care. It doesn't hurt them. But there are people out there that cannot afford all these taxes, and it's just getting worse. It's a slippery slope. So you allow one tax, and the next year another tax, and the next year another tax, until eventually we're like New York and California. Just, write the check. We're just an empty checkbook. Write it out and build it. It doesn't matter. And then people wind up having to move to escape taxation, just like we've had in these big states.
Absolutely. Well, here's another thing. Mr. Donahue there says the whole courthouse in general is too small as it is, not even counting the jail. Well, that's perfectly fine, because you know what? Our local government has already came up with a solution for the courthouse being too small. And if you refer back to several other commission meetings and such, the talk is, this middle school that is unusable, and we have to build a new middle school and all that kind of stuff. That's how they got it through everybody's head, and all these neighborhood meetings and all this kind of things that have been talked about. That middle school is unusable and full of mold and mildew and all these wonderful things that it just can't be used anymore, can't be remodeled, can't be added on to, can't be done anything with. that was pounded into everybody's heads for months and months and months. Well, now our county elected officials want to use the unusable middle school to move some of the courthouse offices into and do all these things too. So yes, there is a solution to that. Apparently, Mr. Donahue, and that's already been talked about, and so that will be relieving some of your comment or your concern there with the too small courthouse. So there's that part. The other part of that is in the going back to the commission meeting, the talk about this 5-year plan again. That came up again and had to be sorted out once again that this 5-year plan does not mean that we have to build a jail. It does not mean any of that. The only thing that 5-year plan says is that because the state cannot come in and shut the jail down. We've talked about this many, many times, but because it was brought back up in the county commission meeting, I will bring it back up again. That 5-year plan is just about certifying the jail. Does not mean that the state is going to come in and shut the jail down. That's been pounded in people's heads and tried to make the folks scared that we're going to lose the jail in Union County. That has nothing to do with it. The only folks that could shut the jail down is the fire marshal, or a federal judge can make the fire marshal go shut the jail down. And the sheriff said that plainly in the last county commission meeting himself. Now, you talk about certification of the jail. We've had a jail here in Union County that has been not certified more than it has been certified. So yes, it's nice to have a certified jail. It's nice to have that. But under the conditions, as far as overcrowding and that kind of thing, that is what Union County is I guess, in trouble for, is the overcrowding. And that's why I said, why are we going to build a 130-bed jail, a 130-bed jail, if it's already going to be crowded when we open? That's an issue. Why are we going to spend that money for nothing, really? It doesn't make sense to me. It's not fair to the taxpayers of this county to spend millions and millions of dollars to get us no further ahead. Mm-hmm. That's my issue. And to tax us to death, that's another issue. But to all these smoke and mirrors that our county officials like to play, and the word salad games and all these things, it's just ridiculous. And it's just to get people to take their side and not really look at the picture. It's just basically telling folks, sit down, shut up, and let me do what I'm doing. I heard him say that. Also heard him say a major lawsuit would not be nice to taxpayers because of current conditions. Well, I can sue you right now for anything. So a lawsuit is a lawsuit these days. Everybody sues everybody for everything. So a scare tactic by saying a federal lawsuit or a major lawsuit could happen at any time. Well, let me tell you, Union County is already facing several lawsuits because of mismanagement, drugs in the jail, overdoses in the jail, brutality, and all these other lawsuits. You know, these criminals go in the jail, they do their time. Most of them, you just want to be in and out and get back out and do the things that they're going to do. But sometimes things happen that shouldn't happen, like folks that shouldn't be allowed to have drugs in the jail get drugs in the jail, and bad things happen. So guess what? A lawsuit happens. This isn't the first time, nor will be the last time that the Union County will get sued, whether it's the jail, whether it's somebody falling on the courthouse steps, whether anything like that. So that major lawsuit could happen at any time. Let me tell you another thing. Person in the back of the squad car on the way to the jail can say something happened, or they hurt their wrist or whatever and sue the county. So that talking point is just that, a talking point.
I agree. The jail is a liability. Anytime you have a jail in your county, it's a liability automatically. When you are holding people in a jailhouse, you always have the possibility with every prisoner of getting sued. So that's just part of doing, it's the what we call the cost of doing business. And so these lawsuits can happen even if you have a new jail. Someone could trip on something that's put in and say, "Oh, I've got a lawsuit." I mean, it could be anything. These lawsuits happen in new jails as well as older jails. It's not just an older jail issue.
Well, let me clarify another thing, because I know where certain people are going with this. And let me clarify something. We have never once said that we were against a new middle school. We have never once said we were against a new jail. What we have said is that we are against overtaxing the citizens of this county and unfair taxation and all those kinds of things. There are other ways to come up with funds to do certain things. Unnecessary lawsuits are preventable. Yeah, but tell that to the person that burnt their lip with a pickle at McDonald's and sued McDonald's. Of course, it's preventable. Let's give them cold pickles. Your
Well,
comment is
well, the lawsuits, they happen, and what happens most of the time is the county or the city municipality does a settlement. Okay. They may not pay the person what they sued for because the lawsuit is probably going to be astronomical, millions of dollars for burning yourself on a hot pickle or whatever you're doing. But, you know, in the insurance and things that the counties all have, because they know these lawsuits are going to come down, they do a settlement out of court. I've seen many of them when I used to report for the newspaper. I read all kinds of lawsuits where they did settlements with people, and a lot of times the payouts were between $25,000 to $40,000. That was just an average at that time. I'm not sure what they are now, but they offer a shiny amount of money to just get these people off their back, and that's usually what winds up happening. So you probably will never see Union County Jail ever have to pay out millions of dollars because it will be settled out of court.
well, you talk about back to the county commission meeting. They got into that topic about the 5-year plan, and that's exactly what it was. It's just a guideline. It's not necessarily a you have to. And again, we've never said that we don't need a new jail or anything like that. We've only questioned where the funding was coming from. And we'd rather see a push for new businesses to come. We'd rather see more income coming from small businesses and those kinds of things. And that would lessen the taxation burden on the citizens of Union County as far as property taxes and all those other kinds of taxes. But we don't see much of a push for that. We don't see a business positive environment in Union County. We see things like, you don't like it, then leave. We want things to stay the way they are, and those kinds of things. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and you can have that opinion. But at the same time, you have a county of 20,000 people, 23-ish% of that are under the poverty level. And then you got to take out the other percentage that are minors and on fixed income, elderly retired folks. It's not fair to shove that burden down the throats of the citizens that are just trying to make a living. I understand there's some wealthy people in Union County. I am not one of them. Many of us are not one of them. And therefore, we can't afford all these taxes that keep being shoved down our throat. It's just not fair. And as a business owner, you know, I'm trying to make a living for my family, and it's just not fair. You talk about the wheel tax. You know, they say it's only $20. It's not only $20. It's January 1. It goes up to $85 to get a tag renewed.
Well,
what a bunch of horse pucky.
Mr. Donahue, Mr. Donahue, and I appreciate you being here because I really do want you to be, join us. We just don't like trolling. That's kind of a sore issue with us here at the coalition. But we do appreciate other thoughts. We do appreciate other ideas. We're very open-minded, and we'd love to hear your perspectives. Okay. The interstate, you do not have to be close to an interstate to grow business. What needs to happen, though, is we in Union County, and as well as other counties across the state that are smaller like ours, we tend to focus more on building the government up to where, we think, oh, if we build it, they will come, and we'll do it through government. We'll do it through schools. We'll have better schools, so we'll get more people moving in, better, and attract all these people and businesses and whatnot. That's kind of going about it backwards, because actually there has been studies done on this. People do not always move to a community because of a school. What they do look for when moving is they look at crime. They look at their ability to possibly make money, called small business. And it seems like somewhere along the way, we've kind of lost sight of investing into our small business owners. Our small business owners is the heartbeat of our community. We do have a lot of small businesses here in Union County that are growing through no help of the government. But we have a lot of people who would love to employ people that would love to grow. But when you don't give small businesses many incentives to stay with you or to grow with you, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities that you would have had you had the focus more on building the infrastructure for small businesses than building an infrastructure for big government. And of course, the school system is part of that government. So you do better when you focus on those small businesses, because those small businesses can grow into feeding your tax base. And that's where we're missing the boat. We had an opportunity over in the Luttrell community to do such a thing. And it was basically, the money was there to get it started. There were businesses interested in signing up. We've had other opportunities in the past, pretty much went the same way. Every time in this county that we've had a chance to grow our small businesses and to basically network together to build something huge like a sports complex, it's been pretty much just thrown out the window. And so when you don't invest in a small business or a business entity like that, you're just saying, well, we don't need that because everybody's a blank check and we'll raise the taxes and just pay for it that way. But you've got to have some vested interest in these small businesses, or you're never going to grow beyond just either printing money or taxing your citizens.
Absolutely. And we get into this discussion quite a bit, where we as a coalition are just against everything the county does. That is not true. We talk about what's going on. We voice our opinions. We give credit where credit is due. We were talking about Commissioner Cook doing an excellent job standing up for our children and that kind of thing. We're not negative all the time. We're not just down. we're not down on the folks. We are questioning what's going on, which is what our founding fathers did. They didn't like what was going on with being ruled the way they were by the kingdom that they were, and they didn't want to be taxed. We don't want to be taxed. Bottom line, we don't want to be taxed to death, just like them. So you can say seems that way all you want to, but I have a right to question my taxation, and I will continue to do that. I will also continue to fight for the folks that can't pay extremes amount of taxes. And when you get to a position, mismanagement. We want to dive into the mismanagement that has happened in this county so often. And you can say that I'm lying, whatever you want. Perfect example, you got at least 12 years of the county paying the school system $600,000 and nobody caught it. And we can't take it back. We can't. Once you give the money to the school system, you can't take it back. You have to continue to give it to them. Mismanagement. What could this county have done with $600,000 that they didn't give away to the school system to fund other things? We could have saved $600,000 a year and maybe had a few $1,000,000 to build something. We could have had this $600,000 that we had to hurry up and come up with to pay for the solid waste situation we had. But we didn't, because we were mismanaged. And whose fault is that? Ultimately, it's our elected officials and our government, whoever they are. I'm not saying that everybody's perfect. I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm not saying they're all great. What I'm saying is it's a common occurrence that has happened too many times. That's what I'm against. And then on top of that, we get taxes shoved down our throat. My house payment, I've said this many times on the podcast before. My house payment went from last year's tax increase, not this year's, last year's tax increase went from $896 to $1,005. I haven't got my new tax bill yet. I am dreading seeing what that thing looks like, because we just had a little tiny tax increase last year. We had a big one this year. I am absolutely hate going to the mailbox to see what that tax bill is going to look like with this big tax increase. And guess what? Based on what Sydney Jesse said in the county commission meeting, we're going to have another tax increase next year. And guess what? It's going to be a big one, just like it is for the school system. We had to come up with that money. You talk about the wheel tax again. We'll go talk about it. It got raised. Okay. People say, well, it's only $20. No, it's not only $20. More mismanagement, because that wheel tax that we already had was supposed to sunset. Guess what? Oh, we didn't figure out the numbers right. We got to add another 2 years to that wheel tax so it won't sunset when it's supposed to. We got to come up with the money that we didn't pay like we were supposed to, because the payment out of Pam Ayler's own mouth and several other local elected officials' own mouths, we didn't figure enough in the payments that we made to make the full payment. So now we've got to make up 2 years worth of payments. Where's it come from? So
yeah, and the county commission, and I mean, I've covered these meetings for years. It seems to me like they nickel and dime themselves into the hole, and of course we had a pretty good management of those funds up till recently. Now we're actually in the hole. But it just seems like to me that we nickel and dime ourselves. And that's one of the reasons we stood behind the commissioners actually combing through those budgets in the budget cycle and seeing what they could eliminate. And we thought they were on the right track, but at the end, I don't think they really eliminated that much. But it's not just the county's. It's not just the county's budget. It's also the school system's budget. I think there's a lot over there that we need to look at as well. But that budget seems to be kind of, a far away budget that's complicated that, many people never see. And we've had people actually ask for the budget, the specific budget in the county commission, and several people have said they've never been privy to it. They've tried to get it and couldn't get it. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I think we the people need to look at the specifics of both of these budgets to see what we can find, to see what can be cut. And as far as solutions, there's plenty of solutions to a lot of the spending. When somebody says we want to build because we are overcrowded, you got to look at your options. We've never been presented other options except just build a brand new school. It seems like every time that we have an overcrowding issue, there is never a solution from any county commission or any school board member just to build on. Now, I know in the far past, we've had the little buildings, but I don't think anyone wants to go that route. I think most people would be happy with additions to the schools, which would save everybody a lot of money. And you could even renovate the existing schools. And for those of you who do not know about the middle school has actually been proposed to become a recreation center. Well, if they're going to renovate something to become a recreation center, or another or courthouse extension or whatever, they can also do renovations for schools. So most of the problems in that school can be fixed, and then you can have an addition added to that school to give you the room you need for additional children. That's my take on it. And I've seen several proposals made, and they were basically just ignored.
Well, again, I hate to keep repeating this, but I'm going to. We were told so many times that middle school is just unusable. In these neighborhood meetings in each district that had them and all these kinds of things. This building is just unusable. And then it gets passed to build the new middle school, and the money gets approved and all this kind of thing. Oh, well, we're going to use the old middle school, and we're going to put some offices in there and maybe a courtroom and or two, and we're going to, like I said, build a rec hall and all these things. Well, you just told us that it was unusable, but now we're going to use it. And that's where we get into why are things done that way? I was trying to read that. Let me get back there. That's my complaint totally with you all. You talk and gripe and fine. You are entitled, never no solid proof of suggestions or answers, and I get labeled a troll. Well, Mr. Donahue, if you act like a troll, then you're going to be a troll. Number one. Number two, not done anything about it or not given solutions. We've offered several solutions on here tonight, so I don't know what you're talking about. And number three, also doing things about it. I actually ran for county commission, and I've made my voices heard. I've stood up for several things that have gone on around here. So I don't know where you get off saying that we don't do anything. I stood up for the constables. I stood up for the children that were being bullied, not only once, not only twice, but several times. I've been on the news. I'm not bragging, but I've been on several different things. I've been very vocal about things going on around this county, good, bad, or ugly. I've gave credit to. Why did I get beat? I'm not even going that one.
Don't fall
But
for it. Yeah, don't
I'm
fall for
not
it.
going to. Well, he done stepped in it when he said that he talks to Sydney Jesse all the time. So
I don't mind.
but
I don't, Mr. Donahue. I don't mind. I don't mind. You're actually showing some good stuff here. Okay, you're actually talking with us about some solutions. Okay, that's healthy. Okay, we just don't like trolling. There is a difference. So if you're not sure what trolling is, you can Google it. If Google still gives you the truth, you can Google it. It just means that you're just using malicious, things like you were doing. I'm not going to get into all that, but it's just there's no solutions. You're just being negative about things without really talking with us. So we don't mind you coming on here and talking with us about ideas, solutions, whatever you've got to bring to the table. Uh, we're a equal opportunity employer, so to speak. We love talking with citizens and finding out how we can kind of making like a think tank in a sense, so that we can actually come up and help our commissioners come up with some solutions. I don't know, and I don't have to be elected to do that. None of us do. We don't have to be elected to provide ideas and solutions to county commissioners or to school board members. Okay. So all we ask is that you engage with us in a healthy way, provide solutions, just like what we're trying to do. And then maybe somewhere down the road, we'll all get listened to and we'll have some great infrastructure, okay, without having such a high price tag to it.
absolutely, and like I said, that's been our main goal is for the people's voices to be heard, and we've won. We won most of those battles. Just like the whole, as far as voices being heard, we'll go specifically to that one. We had a 2 minute rule that said you could only talk at the end of the meeting for 2 minutes and be done with it. Well, we got that changed. We actually worked hard and we done a lot of talking and talking to the elected officials and saying how it wasn't fair and all these things that we worked really hard on. And now look what we got. We got 5 minutes, and we've got. Uh, I saw they have this citizens' time to speak at the meeting. Yeah, we have saw that. We're the ones that got that accomplished. Where have you been? Where have you been, Mister? Did you also know, since you need a little bit of education apparently, did you also know that the constables would no longer be here in Union County if it wasn't for we the people standing up and fighting for those people, for our constitutional office, which is constable, the most powerful law enforcement agency in. I'm done with this guy.
Hey, Daryl, it's okay. We can all be civil here on this page. I don't mind Mr. Donahue's questions. In fact, uh, if it wasn't for my efforts, he would have already been gone from the coalition page, because some of our admins are not so patient. So I have actually stood up for you, Mr. Donahue, because I do like to have different ideas on these discussions. Okay. What we don't like is just trolling and trash talk. Okay. Name calling, um, accusing a group of being a certain way, using toxic language, that kind of thing. It's just that just doesn't present any solutions. And we have a lot of people that follow our site that they don't like toxicity like that. So they like to talk about what we can do to solve these problems. Have discussions again, not be so divisive, okay? Um, about everything we're talking about, having those conversations again. That's the problem with this country. We have so many people that they think if they have a different opinion that you're their enemy. That we should not be in this place. That's just something our culture has turned into is dog eat dog. If your opinion is different, then I'm just going to shut you down. Just leave the county because we don't want to hear none of you outsiders talking. Just leave the county. You people just need to go back where you come from. And, you know, we've got to be, we just got to go back to being kind to one another instead of all this viciousness. I think most of us love our county, obviously. We want to have good things in our county, but we also have to be responsible and look at what we're spending so that we don't hurt somebody. And it's getting to the place now that people are really struggling. And I was brought up poor. I was brought up knowing how to balance my checkbook from many years ago and helping people with less than I had. And so I'll always have a heart for the people, and I just don't want to see them ruined because we have this tax ball just going right down the hill with them, taking everybody with it.
I'm sorry. Miss Booth, I love you. Anyways, so back to the county commission meeting. Oh Lord. Back to the county commission meeting. So again, we were talking about the jail and how it. Oh, I love these live podcasts.
I love everybody out there and pray for one another. Even if
hey, don't be stealing my line.
Even if you disagree, Jason, or anybody out there, love one another. I mean, I fight with my own family. I can imagine. You're definitely going to fight with one another. You're going to have disagreements. We can kind of laugh. We can have fun with it. But love one another in the spirit of love. It will not let you down. God is with us, and He knows the right way. He laughs at us making these gestures and trying to do things in the flesh. So, guys,
back to the county commission meeting. Back to the jail. Okay. So, if the jail is built at the courthouse, they could attach the jail to the courthouse, basically. So that will stop the transportation problem. Also, that will take the parking lot away. So what's the solution for the parking lot? Well, they're already buying the property across the street, the Steiner property, and they're going to build a 2-level parking garage over there. So that's already taken care of as far as what the plan is. The problem is the funding, and the problem is also getting them away from the idea of taking the ball field. And that's where the battle is currently as far as where to put it. And they're pushing off the funding of such until next budget cycle, according to Commissioner Jesse. Now, again, I'm going back. Building a 130-bed jail is totally counterintuitive to what you're trying to accomplish by the solution to the problem of your overcrowding. It's not making sense because you're almost at 130 already with what you got. You can't do that. If you're going to spend millions and millions of dollars, at least do it as a better benefit to the county. Don't just waste money. And that's another problem that we have here in Union County. We don't look at the future. We don't plan ahead. We do it now. We're always reactive instead of proactive. We're always, okay, 5-year plan. Oh no, we got a 5-year plan. Now we got to react instead of being proactive and saying, okay, well, oops, we've been giving this money to the school system for 12 years. We can't change that now, but we need to do a better job of making sure that doesn't happen again. So let's make a plan for that. And also, okay, well, instead of giving all this money away that we give away every year to all these folks that come and ask for it, I understand that they might need it, but at this point in time, we've raised taxes and taxes and taxes on our folks. We can't just give money away anymore. We've got to step back, and we've got to use that money, maybe put it aside. Maybe let's start saving some money so we can put it in a fund so we can use it for a later date to build something else we need instead of raising taxes again. Let me tell you, folks, it's already been mentioned that the school system is already in the next 5 years going to ask for another new school. And that new school will be the new elementary school for Maynardville, New Maynardville Elementary School. They've already came out and said it publicly. So what are we doing as a county to plan ahead to build that? Nothing. Because we have no idea how we're going to come up with the funding for what we have already that we have to build now. That's my issue. That's what I'm talking about. Let's do a better job of planning ahead. Is not the school system putting that money towards the new middle school? They are putting some money towards the new middle school, not all the money towards the new middle school, to answer your question. That's why we had a property tax increase and why we had a wheel tax increase, because the county has to give the majority of the money to the school system to build the school. So, again, it's very important that you folks out there that are listening get to these county commission meetings so you can see what the plan is. You can voice your concern. You can call your commissioners. You can write them emails. You can talk to them in person. You could all do all these things and let them know your thoughts. That's what we do. That's what we're here for, is to voice our thoughts. And we can go back and forth all night long and never get anywhere because certain people are strong-headed and some people just don't want to listen. But everybody has their own opinion.
They do. This is not about who's right and who's wrong. This is about providing solutions. And like you said, Jason, better managing our money, making sure our elected officials are managing our tax dollars the best way they possibly can. And we don't expect perfection. We know there's going to be mistakes made from time to time. Everybody's human while we're on this earth. Everybody's going to make mistakes. None of us walk on water, but we do have a right as a citizen to hold our elected officials accountable. And like Mr. Donahue said earlier, if you don't like the way things are running, run. And that could be not directed at you, Jason, but that could be at any of us. And I think that's a great idea. I think more citizens should run for public office. And I'm not talking about politicians. I'm talking about mamas and papas and mamas and daddies, just everyday people out here that want to see their community be better. And that's one of the reasons we're having this mixer. And that's another reason that there's some big changes happening in Union County, because we want people to run for public office that are just ordinary people that understand what it's like to live in a house, to have a job, to have a family, to understand the pain of the economy, to understand what it's like to live from paycheck to paycheck. Because what better type of person to represent the county and the people's interests than someone like that, and not a politician?
Absolutely. Miss Cheryl says Maryville's a music town. Let's do music fest and all these kinds of things. That's a good idea. I'll throw props out to the Union County Opry. They do a great job of bringing folks in. They do I just went to their Christmas show, first show that I went at the Opry. Did a fantastic job, and that kind of thing. That is one way that they can continue to expand and do things that bring money into the county, generate interest. The Opry's had people come from all over the country. So I give the Opry props for that. That is a good thing for the county. You want to talk about solutions? Another solution that I've actually had that I've met with the mayor about, and I've met with some other folks, is why doesn't Union County have uh, a, a fair every year? Most every county around us has one, but we don't. Union County doesn't. That would be more money that would be spent in Union County. Here's the kicker of that, though. It actually has to be put. A county fair would actually have to be put in the county. Why do I say that? Well, you look at all these businesses that are in the city of Manorville, okay? Let me make this as clear as I possibly can to the folks that don't understand it, okay? Most of the businesses, not all, but most, the majority of major businesses in Union County are in the city of Manorville. You know what that means, folks? That means that the county does not get those sales tax. Well, who gets them? The city of Manorville gets them, and the school system gets them. That's who splits those sales tax. If the tax isn't spent at a business in the county, not the city, in the county does not get those taxes. So when people come up and they say, well, the sales tax, the tourist has a sales tax, blah, 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 blah. If it happens in the city, the county doesn't get that money. That's where a lot of people get confused. And that's why I talk about the county needs to do a better job of enticing business to the county, not the city, the county. Whether it's small business, whether it's, food establishments, whatever it may be, do a better job of that. Make it more enticing for businesses to start. Or come here, either one, and those kinds of things. I have submitted lots of plans. I've met with the mayor almost on a weekly basis there for a little while about ideas, and some of those ideas he thought were good ideas, and he's actually trying to do some of those ideas, like the recreation center at the old middle school. That was actually one of the ideas that I discussed with him, trying to bring a boys and girls club to Union County. It's just things like that. And I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to take credit for anything. I'm just saying to question ideas being given or solutions. It's happened.
Mr. Donahue says the county property in Luttrell has railway access, by the way, would be a great place for a new county business. I'm not sure if isn't that where the sports complex was being proposed, Jason?
No, the sports complex was supposed to be there at the industrial park. It might be in the same general area. I
was thinking it was maybe.
Yeah, one side of it is still used as an industrial park. The other side of it was supposed to be the sports complex. Which, again, if the sports complex, I know you mentioned it, but a sports complex did come. There was several businesses that were coming because of the sports complex open, and there was 2 businesses that already went and got bank loans to open said businesses as soon as the sports complex got underway. But it got changed, and I don't know what happened. What happened to those businesses, but or what happened to those loans or anything like that. But we did have businesses coming due to the sports complex that got ixnayed.
Yeah, they were deals being made, but we don't know how far they got. I mean, once they pulled the money, it didn't matter anyway. I'm also wondering about online sales tax relative to our county businesses that are selling um, merch to support a local county event. I wonder how that works, Jason. I mean, that's something too we could look at.
Right, and that's part of what the mayor shows on his monthly report, county commission meeting. He does show, most of the time, he shows the sales tax revenue that's come from online businesses, and then also the B&Bs and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
And,
basically,
and Union County does great and has increased significantly in those areas, but at the same time, uh, what's here?
you've got Bubba Brews and you've got the winery. I believe the winery is also county, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we need to attract and figure out what we can do to attract more of those type of businesses to the county. Now, I know a lot of people talk about tourism, which most of us, don't have a problem with tourism. Tourism would be could be based in the county, or tourism related businesses could also be located in the counties, especially around the lakes. So those are I know there's some big developments. I'm just going to say this, Mr. Donahue and others. We have some counties around us, neighboring counties, that have some big things going on right now. Okay. I can't be detailed about it, but there's some big, big things happening. And let me tell you, those counties aren't stupid. They they are they're going after it on the business side of it for their county. And so
Absolutely.
our county,
Here's a comment I'll actually agree with Mr. Donahue about. He says, I don't know about the previous mayor 20 years ago killing a business that wanted to come here, but I will say this is what I agree with. This county has ixnayed a bunch of businesses that have wanted to come here. I know a lady that wanted to open a bowling alley, and the county wouldn't let her do that because it would cause too much trouble with the teenagers. I could go through a list of businesses that have wanted to come to Union County, but got ixnayed. So, you know, those business owners do take their businesses elsewhere.
yeah, I'm all about those. I love building small business. That's kind of my thing, and that's one of the things that we do actually with my company is we help small businesses uh, build from scratch, from the ground up, and basically, if you've got enough people with enough incentive to move to your county because they know that their network is going to produce income for their employees and their owners and everybody else, and you've got reasonable property values, you've got a lot of things going in your demographics, yeah, your county is going to be more attractive to those folks. Now, we've got tourism here is kind of our base, just like Sevierville did with the mountains and the streams and all that. We've got a huge tourism. We're not that far from a national park. Did you all know that too? The national park is up around the Kentucky border, borders Chattanooga, listen at me, borders Claiborne County and Middlesboro. There's a national park. There's Cumberland Gap. We're not very far. We're actually in a very nice area here that could be expanded relative to tourism. But you've got to give people incentive to come here.
Tourism is great. Glad it's one of Union County's best things to offer. That's great. The problem with tourism as it relates to tax increases and those kinds of things, as far as the way Union County's government is set up, tourism cannot be used, the tourism dollars cannot be used for anything but tourism. That's one of the biggest issues with the way it's set up. And whether it's a state thing or local thing, whatever it is, it doesn't do justice to the citizens when it actually comes down to taxation. Because we can bring in $1 trillion in tourism dollars, but the county can't use that $1 trillion to build a new school. It can't use tourism dollars to build a new jail. It could only use tourism dollars for tourism related things. That's the issue with tourism. So we could talk all day about how good tourism is, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome. Don't take me the wrong way. I know how some folks are. But you can't use that money for some things that the county actually needs the money for. And it's like, I believe Miss Janet made a comment the other day. As far as Big Ridge, here, it's in my district. It's a great park. I love it. Go there all the time. Take my grandkid there. We play on a swing. We go fishing over there, whatever. We do all these things over there. Great park. Love it. And the state has decided, I know the county was trying to build a new boat dock over there. And I think the state's kind of picked that up. And so the state's trying to do their thing over there. It's all great. Wonderful. Love it. Here's the issue. There's nothing over here as far as the county goes, as county businesses. There's no gas stations. There's no places to eat. There's nothing like that over here. So where the closest, easiest place to get to for people traveling or coming to the park to have picnics or whatever, where are they going to go? Where are they going to spend their money? Where are they going to spend their tax dollars? It's not in Union County. It's going to be up here in Anderson County. It's going to be at the Walmart up here. It's going to be at the gas stations up there as they're filling up their boats and all these other things. They're going to get their groceries for the cabins at the Walmart. They're not going to go out of their way unless they're just coming from that end of town. They're not going to go out of their way to go into Union County and buy their things to come back here. Most folks, and I know, I see the boats. They travel up and down my road all day, every day, by big numbers, because we complain about it because our road's tiny and we almost get hit all the time. But with these boats and campers coming down the road going to the park, they're not coming from that way. They're coming from Anderson County, the majority of them. And so that's one of the issues that Union County needs to take advantage of. Fine. Tourism, great. Do something over here. Bring some businesses in over here to take advantage of that situation. But we don't.
One of the things, if you've not been to Sharp's Chapel in a long time, if you've not driven out to those back roads where all these developments are, it's impressive. And some people are sad about it. And I understand that the natives over there have a sense of sadness, but the people from the outside that came here, that moved here from other states and whatnot, they've kind of got their own little business community started over there. Now it's not, there's not a lot of it yet, but they've either taken over other buildings or existing buildings and structures, or they have started their own little shops or stores or whatever. So a lot of times when people move in here from other areas, they fix their own problems. They develop these communities and then they bring in their own places to service what they need. And they have their own entrepreneurs and people that start those businesses outside of our city limits. And so one of the problems that we're seeing in places like Sevierville, which they're way ahead of us and in size and every which way, but you have what they call gentrification, okay, which is your property values go up, your taxes go up over time, and people start selling out. Locals start selling off their farms into tracts, and eventually people move away, and other people in other areas come in and just basically populate your county. This is happening all over the country, and people are getting, in some cases, taxed right out because they can't afford to own the property anymore. And so these are some problems that's happening across the country that this is not something that has happened here majorly at this point, but it's something that to be concerned about. And so we have to have a balance between tourism, the money it can bring into the county, and gentrification, which can be very bad for the local citizens and the people that it is unreal. If you drive into Gatlinburg, if you were up there as a child, I would urge everyone here that went to Gatlinburg as a child just to drive around Gatlinburg, and you will see gentrification at work. And it is sad. There are beautiful mountains up there where you come right into the main part of Gatlinburg, and you can look up on the mountain, and all you see is a skyline of buildings and structures and condos that just totally just ripped off the top of those mountains and structures. So really, this is up to the people. The local people here have to decide how far they want to allow tourism to come in here, because at some point, sometimes it gets out of hand, and then you destroy a lot of the natural elements of what made your little small community great. So it's on one hand, it's a good thing, and on the other hand, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So everybody that has, like I said, just drive up to Gatlinburg, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And yeah, we don't need to be another Sevierville or Gatlinburg, but Union County could do better. Well, look at it. I hear the people that say, we don't want change, we like the way it is, and that kind of thing. That's great too. I don't want huge changes, and that's not what I'm saying, but we got to move forward a little bit at least. And I'm not talking about being a progressive community either. I'm just talking about increasing our tax base a little better.
Yeah, I think there is a balance that we can achieve, but we have to have good leadership in knowing what that balance is. And we've got to have our citizens more involved with our county government and our city governments too, because you're the folks that have to live here. We all have to live here. We all have to deal with this every day. You have to decide what you want your county to look like or be preserved in, and what you're going to preserve and what you're going to try to work on so that we can have a lower tax for our citizenry, because you do have to have so much business in order to experience a low taxation. You got to get that right formula, and you've got to have smart leadership that can take you there. You can't just have anyone in those offices and those seats making these decisions, like you said, Jason, just reacting. You got to get away from the reactionary politician. And that's unfortunately what we not only Union County, but other counties across our country have experienced. You get people in there that just really don't know how to run a company or a county or anything else. And not to say that everybody has to be a business person, but at least you have to understand how to manage your own household, your budget at home, and the difference in needs and wants.
That's it. I agree. What else you got for the evening?
Well, I think we've had a pretty good little segment this evening. We've got a lot of people talking. I love the positivity that we're seeing tonight. We even had some people on here that doesn't normally like us to chime in, and we always welcome you. We don't, like I said, we don't mind positive input. We don't mind people having differences in opinions. But we don't like trolls because trolls are not healthy for our people that follow our site. We actually had somebody leave the site, according to Jason. We had someone leave the site today because they said that they saw some of the posting that was getting kind of toxic, or they just didn't like the back and forth. So we're just trying to get better with that because we really want this to be a positive force in our community, and get more into the solving our problems and less into just the bickering back and forth. That's not what we're about. And we have never, maybe in the beginning when we first started, but as far as any recent memory, we've never called anyone a name. The only thing that we have done is we have identified people as tyrants, okay, because of their behavior. But we've never gotten personal with anyone that I'm aware of, unless it wasn't, like I said, maybe when we first started. I can't recall anything too direct, but we do try to do the right thing. We're trying to clean up a lot of things here with our podcast and handle it and do a little bit more professional job here. So hopefully everybody will feel welcome to comment and input anytime we do a podcast. You are more than welcome to attend our workshops and our community meetings. That's what we love to get more into at those meetings. We got a lot of exciting things happening at the first of the year that I really want to see more people involved. And without you guys, we don't have anything. I mean, we need all the citizens to get involved, and we're not always going to agree on everything. There's going to be some things that, like I said, we can't always agree with our own family. So
well, me and you don't always get along, so we don't always agree.
We get along. We just don't always agree on some of the issues. But I will say that we do agree on a lot of the principle, and that's the important part, is your principle.
And Miss Roper, I completely understand. You say you live on that small budget. Let me tell you, I understand that better than a lot of folks. I guess maybe my mother lives on $130 a week. That's all she gets is $130 a week. So when if she had to deal with the taxes that we deal with, like they are, and she has a car still and all that kind of stuff. You talking about to renew her tag? That's one of her checks, basically. Then she doesn't get to eat that week. She doesn't get to, get her medicine that week. How is that fair? And to me, it's not.
Well, I can tell you from firsthand experience that there are weeks I'm a small business owner, but I also work for another company. But since COVID, my business has went down, just like a lot of other people's, and my income has become less. Well, on certain weeks, my income is a lot less. And so I have to manage my money to make sure that all my expenses can be paid through that, what I call challenged week, where I can still put groceries on the table and that kind of thing. And I try not to touch savings. I try not to delve into any credit cards or anything like that. And so I can imagine that there'll be people that will receive their tax bills and it will fall on a week like that, or even a month like that, where they just don't have the income coming in to pay for those taxes. And that's why sometimes you see a lot, and the newspaper publishes it, the local paper. You see these people that owe taxes because they get behind, or they're trying to delay their cash flows off or whatever. It's not that they're trying to cheat anybody. It's just that their cash flow is not there to pay the bill. So you're going to see more and more of that as time goes along, as these taxes increase. And we're going to, because we're solution oriented, we're going to talk with you guys first year about how you can fight taxation, more taxation at least. We can't undo what's been done, but we can at least work together to provide solutions when they come up with these other projects. And we can, with more of us working together, we can provide those solutions as a unit of people coming to those county commission meetings and present these ideas. And some of the training that's coming up in January focuses on how to talk with your county commissioners, how to get their attention, how to be respectful. I know that's a challenge for some of us, and none of us are perfect. But there's a lot of good information out there that we can all be privy to if we just put our heads together, and we can actually provide solutions while also saying we've had enough of taxation. Okay. So that's what we've been working so hard for, is to try to get everybody on the same page, at least with the activism, to where people can feel comfortable about going to county commission and presenting ideas and solutions. It's okay to present that you're hurting. It's okay to talk about how taxes affect you, but you also got to remember that these folks, they are trying to solve a problem, whether you agree with it or not. At least if you bring something to the table to say, what if we did this? They're going to be more likely to, with time and with more pressure, they're going to be more likely to listen. When you start out something like this, a movement like what we have, it takes a lot of time sometimes just to get enough people to get their attention. And with the group that we've had, that I should say active, because we got a lot of people that don't get to come out as much as we'd like, but with a small group that we've had, we've already started making changes, and through the activism. And as we grow, it'll be just like some of these other counties that we are seeing, like, is it Rogersville that had the county commission meeting where the people showed up in a great number? It was like 200 or 300 people at that county commission meeting that said, heck to the no, we're not doing this. And it wasn't taxes. It was actually something to do with their property usage. So when you have that kind of number of people showing up, you think 8 to 10 people makes an impact. Wait till you see 100 people or 200 people at those meetings making impact. And I know I've been told, oh, don't ever expect that many people at all your meetings. You'll never get there. But if anybody has ever read history, there was something called the 3%ers. And the 3%ers, the whole idea behind the 3% is that it doesn't take that many people percentage-wise to make a difference in your community.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I have. You got anything else? I know I didn't ask that once.
I do. So for those of you who are coming to the mixer on Friday, just be reminded, 6:30 is when it starts at the church across from McDonald's. It's Miller Chapel. Come hungry. We're going to be serving some mean meatballs and some finger sandwiches. I don't know if we'll have any ice cream for you, Jason, but who knows? We might get surprised.
I heard there's going to be peanut butter fudge coming. I'm happy with that too.
I think that Barbara was making the peanut butter fudge. I hope she's still doing that. I love peanut butter fudge. But yeah, we're going to have all kinds of goodies there for you. So come hungry, both physically and spiritually, and also for knowledge, because we're going to have lots of good knowledge there. Charles Cook, who we've been on his podcast for many years, or several, about a year ago, he will be there, and he's an activist, and he's going to talk to us about activism, and hopefully also give us some inspiration right here before the holidays and before the starting of the new year. So very excited to have Mr. Charles Cook. You're going to be hearing more about him and his podcast. He's out of Hamlin County, and they've got some of the same problems and issues they're struggling with in Hamlin County as we've got here. And folks, there are movements. And for those of you who naysay, I know that a lot of you or some of you don't like us, but for those of you who think that we can be shut up and just go away, there are movements like ours all over the country. And there's movements like us in every little town across the state of Tennessee. And we are all here because we are a group of citizens, whether it's Union County, Granger County, Knox County, that love their country, they love their counties, they love their cities, and they just want to make sure that their cities and counties are healthy for themselves as well as their children and grandchildren in the years ahead.
Absolutely. One more time for all you folks, some of you joined us late. This is our last podcast for the year. Unless something major happens, we'll be back. But this is our last podcast for the year. Come be with us Friday night. Our next podcast will be January the 2nd. We've got a training you'll get more information about on January the 6th. On January the 9th will be our Nashville trip. If you're interested in going there, get a hold of Stephany and she can get you the information on that. The Constitutional Republican Party will be holding a meeting and election the week of January the 15th or the 19th. We'll get an exact date pinned down. January the 22nd is the next county commission meeting. January 23rd, we'll do a podcast. And the 3 days, January 29th to the 31st, will be the Constitutional Republican Party's next mix and mingle. And we'll get date and time specifically for that. Just want to throw those dates out there one more time for all you folks that joined us late and didn't get to hear those. And with that being said, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. If we don't see you before those holidays and that kind of thing, remember the reason for the season. That's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Janet. Anyways, remember to pray for me. I'll pray for you. Thank you very much. And God bless you. And we'll see you next time.
God bless all of you. And we'll see you around the new year.